At the age of 7, I tried to kill my dad, and it happened because he was actually beating my mother. And he was a phys ed instructor in the army, and so it wasn't a very difficult task for him to disarm me, pick me up, and throw me into a corner against the wall.
You were 7.
I was 7 years old, and in that instant, every bit of self-worth that could live in a 7-year-old body just seeped out of me, and
Oh, my heart breaks for you. Yeah. Hi, welcome to Sharing with Susan B, telling stories from the heart. We're looking to inspire, telling stories of struggle, vulnerability, and lessons learned. Hi, I'm Susan Blaine. Welcome. Welcome to this series. I'm really excited to be participating in this project and sitting down with some amazing guests, and I hope you guys feel the same way and you're inspired by what we're going to talk about. Dawn Lachance is my first guest. I'm really excited to have you here. Thank you so much, Dawn.
you're welcome.
I'm excited because I really think that you have something to share that's going to inspire a lot of people. And that's why we're sitting down today, right? Just let me give people a little bit of background on Dawn. Dawn Lachance, he's an advanced grief and loss specialist, and we're going to talk about how he came to be that. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about that because you've had 30 years, after 30 years of alcohol and drug abuse or addiction, your recovery, you began doing some research and study around vulnerability and authenticity, which led you to the Grief Recovery Institute, and you got certified and you're helping people today. I love to tell people's backstories, though, because I always find it interesting how people come to be doing not just the 30 years of recovery work that you did, which is huge, but today you have a blended family. You have 5 kids, 9 grandchildren. You're a husband and dad. But as a young boy, going back, you wanted to be a teacher, but your guidance counselor told you weren't smart enough. Yeah. Shame on them. But age 3, you were already an entrepreneur going door to door, singing and dancing for milk and cookies. And your mom said you were so good that she had to put a sign on the back of his shirt that said, "Please don't feed him, he's not eating his dinner." So you must have been good at it. But you were paper route lemonade stand. In high school you sold things that are legal today, but not back then, right?
Wow, yeah.
Then you got into, you worked for the federal government. Even though you weren't a high school graduate, you got a job in the federal government for a number of years as a complaint mediator for the Department of Consumer and Corporate Affairs. That's right. An interesting job as a communicator. You must have learned some great skills in that gig. But then you got tired of the corporate world or the cubicle world and decided to go back and try some entrepreneurial things by foundation repair specialists in the summer and then working on high-rise buildings. But then you had a near-death experience, so that took you out of that game. It sounds like we could talk forever about some of these backstories.
I know.
But technology sales. You got into technology sales, not knowing anything about it for 10 years, but at 55, when the recession started to hit, you got laid off and found yourself out of work. So that's a bit of your backstory. And then you came to do the work that you're doing now. And I love, what drives you? Why are you really passionate about this work? And tell us about what you're doing right now.
The work I'm involved with now, I was attracted to, and you mentioned earlier, like that, I began studying vulnerability and authenticity. And in that, even with the 30 years of recovery work on my front, there was still so much that I was left incomplete with in so many relationships. And just weighed down, because one thing about grief is that it's cumulative and it's cumulatively negative. We carry all that weight around in backpacks, and so
gets heavy after a while.
Well, yeah, it does, right? And it weighs you down, and you wonder why you can't move forward and why relationships aren't working out the way you expect them to. It's just there's so much turmoil. Yeah. You are stuck. You're weighed down is really what it is. And when I began to explore what it was all about, it wasn't necessarily the grief that we experience that's attached to death or loss of a loved one. It was more the intangible grief. Things like loss of safety, trust, self-respect, dignity, innocence, those things, they carry the same amount of weight and they keep us trapped.
And people don't even know it, right? They don't know that they're trapped by those things.
No, because we've been conditioned to not feel. We've been conditioned to grieve alone. Like, you hear things like be strong for other people. Like, go to your room if you're going to cry like that, you're upsetting your mom. Here, have a cookie, like you'll feel better. all of those things,
Yeah.
right? And it just doesn't help us. But it was the intangible loss that really attracted me to this work, because so many people suffer in silence.
Oh gosh, so many of us, right?
Everything looks good from the outside, but as soon as you pull back that veil, you begin to realize that people are living hopelessly.
It must be very satisfying too to help people move through this, to transition from their grief and their trauma, and to get rid of some of those backpacks. It must be really gratifying.
It is, yes, but here's the great thing about it. I'm really just a heart with ears.
Yes, you are. A heart with ears. I like that.
It's because it's the people that I deal with who often feel alone, and I just walk with them. They do the work. Terribly difficult.
Yeah,
work,
and it is work. And it is work, and which is why a lot of people don't do it, right?
That's right, because it's very uncomfortable.
But here's the good news. Once you do the work, the other side is so liberating.
You walk free.
It's a new life. You walk free. Now, I know you've had some struggles, and part of this series is about keeping it real, right? And talking about struggle. It's great to have success and love what you're doing, but it's not without struggle. So what has been your biggest struggle personally?
Well, if you go to my site, and you can check it out, and I'm sure there'll be a mention of it at the end of this.
Yes, there will.
At the ed of 7, I tried to kill my dad. And it happened because he was actually beating my mother. And he was a phys ed instructor in the Army, and so it wasn't a very difficult task for him to disarm me, pick me up, and throw me into a corner against the wall.
You were 7.
I was 7 years old. And in that instant, every bit of self-worth that could live in a 7-year-old body just seeped out of me. And
my heart breaks for you.
we dress our struggles up as fear, when they're really shame-based emotions. Fear is publicly accepted by most people, and shame isn't. We're taught not to talk about.
Although
shameful
Brene
things.
Brown's given us a run for her money.
She's one of my heroes.
Yeah, she's awesome.
It was work of hers that really began to attract me to look at what vulnerability is, and a lot we hear it in a lot of social media platforms now surfacing. But my big struggle with everything, Susan, was self-worth.
Yeah.
Self-worth, lack of,
yeah. No, I hear you.
and it ties into so many aspects, right?
And it affects so much.
Yeah,
everything you do, your relationships, your profession, everything.
And deeply.
Yeah.
And deeply. And it's conniving too. It's very much like alcohol and drug addiction. When you hear things in program like the disease is cunning and baffling, you wonder what that means. And then as you begin to work through recovery, and when I got involved in the loss and grief work, understanding that those elements, those aspects of, lack of self-worth and dignity and self-respect in a lot of cases, because you've got more to give, but you just don't have the ability to step into the shoes and give it.
What do you learn from it that moves you forward? Yeah.
I guess births resilience. I'm on the flip side of the coin now.
Sure.
I'm not going to say that I'm healed, but I'm on the road to recovery on that front, and it's a daily process.
Sure it is.
And the constant reminders, but equipped with the tool set I have right now, I get to apply them to self.
Yes.
I do the difficult emotional work on my own. There's a whole process involved in our grief and our loss work, and I go through that process on a daily basis.
For yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've learned to develop tools.
That's right.
Right? If you were to give advice to your younger self, or somebody coming up in the ranks, what would that be?
Love yourself. Mm-hmm. Be who you are. And
so many people don't know who they are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of a blanket statement. So it's an interesting one. Love yourself. There's so many layers to that. And when you've struggled, and when self-esteem and self-worth were taken away when you're young, to get that back is a process and takes time and takes work.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
But there are people who are skilled. There are people who are geared to be able to help others with that. So
You got to reach out.
yeah, well, that's
gotta
the
reach
thing,
out.
right? And
Yeah.
there's a quote that changed the course of my life. From I was studying Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and we find what we look for.
Yeah.
So if there was any advice that I could give to my younger self, it would be that quote so much earlier in life.
Yeah.
We find what we look for. So begin to look for help. Begin to look for people who will lighten your path, brighten your path forward.
Can we have some fun now? With some
Absolutely.
rapid fire questions.
Absolutely.
Who's your favorite superhero?
I'd have to say Batman.
Batman.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, think about this for a second. He comes from a place of darkness.
Yes.
And he protects people who don't really understand that sometimes they need protecting.
Yeah. I like that. Favorite food indulgence, Don? It's your weakness.
An indulgence and a curse. Sugar. I can't keep candy in the house.
I know. I'm
Like,
with you on that. Yeah,
I
it's an
can't.
addiction.
I have
It's
zero
another
willpower.
addiction.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Someone you admire.
I'd have to say my dad. You know, and this
Well,
may
that's
sound,
interesting.
yes, I know, it may sound bizarre, you know, just like hearing earlier that I tried to kill him at the age of 7. He managed to get sober shortly after I did and put an offer out for me to really sit in a room with him and work out our differences.
Wow.
And I took him up on it.
That's courage. Courage is a muscle, folks. Oh, I love that. Something not too many people know about you, Don.
I hold a certificate for sushi from Cordon Bleu.
Wow. Favorite movie, book, or quote? You told us the one by Napoleon Hill. Any?
Yeah, that's my favorite quote. Favorite book has to be The Language of Letting Go. Melody Beattie.
Nice. What's something that always makes you smile?
My kids.
Yeah.
All of them.
What's your definition of success in one sentence?
Accepting who you really are and doing the things you want to do.
Yes. If you want to learn more about Don and the work that he does, you'll see below here his website, dvlachance.com. He's on Facebook, he's on Instagram, he's on LinkedIn. He's putting out some really cool content in LinkedIn, some video content. So keep your eye on that. He's got great things coming. I'm so grateful for you for coming today and sharing. I know we only had a few minutes, but I know it'll make a difference in somebody's life. So I really appreciate it. Now we can do the high five.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
It's been amazing.
Wow, that was amazing. I was so inspired by our guests today. I hope you were too. We've got some really cool things coming up. If you have any comments or questions, please contact me. My information's below, and we'll see you next time.